They never truly value you until your presence becomes a memory. Picture this. One day, after ignoring your calls, leaving your messages on read, and treating you like an afterthought, they suddenly show up again. Their name pops up on your phone. The same person who made you feel invisible now wants to talk. Maybe they send a casual, "Hey, how have you been?" as if nothing ever happened, or worse, they act as if they never pushed you away, expecting you to welcome them back like a lost puppy that just found its way home. Now pause, breathe, and ask yourself, why now? It's not love and it's not regret. It's the cold, hard realization that your absence is louder than your presence ever was. The moment you stopped reacting, stopped chasing, and stopped caring, that's when they started to notice. When they couldn't get a reaction out of you, when their mind games fell on deaf ears, when your world didn't crumble just because they walked out of it, that's when the regret kicked in. You see, people get comfortable with your presence. They assume you'll always be there, like a reliable old chair they can sit on whenever they feel like it. They disrespect you because deep down, they believe you'll never leave. That's the lie. That's the illusion they live in. Many of you have been feeding that illusion for far too long. Wake up. Do you want to keep feeling this way? Do you want to sit in silence, waiting for them to finally see your worth? Or do you want to flip the entire game on its head and make them feel the weight of your absence? What if I told you there is a way so powerful, so unshakable, that it forces them to see what they lost? A way that doesn't require games, manipulation, or even revenge. It's something stronger, something undeniable. Let me introduce you to Stoic indifference. Now I know what you're thinking, but I don't want to be indifferent. I want them to feel what I felt. I want them to suffer the way they made me suffer. I want them to know how much it hurt when they ignored me, when they walked away as if I never mattered. And listen, I get it. That fire inside you, that anger, that desire for payback, that's your pain talking. That's the old you, the one that kept giving, waiting, and hoping. But that version of you, that version gets walked all over. That version gets left on red. That version never wins. But Stoic indifference, that's different. Indifference is the ultimate power move. It's the moment you stop being an option and start being a mystery. It's the moment you shift from being predictable to being unpredictable. They expect you to cry, to chase, to prove yourself. But when you don't, when you disappear into your own world, focusing only on yourself, that's when the tables turn. Because suddenly, you are no longer accessible. You are no longer easy to reach, easy to control. And the second they feel that shift, the second they sense that their absence no longer affects you, that's when they start to panic. You think they don't notice. You think they don't feel it. They do, and it eats away at them. They wonder why you stopped reaching out. They wonder if they were wrong about you. They wonder who else has your attention now. And that is the true revenge. Not screaming, not begging, just vanishing. Just becoming a version of yourself that they no longer have access to. No more proving, no more waiting, no more hoping. You are the prize. Now, if you're ready to finally let them feel your absence the way you felt theirs, I want you to comment below. I am the prize. Say it, own it. And if you're ready to step into this new era of self-respect and indifference, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. The era of chasing is over. The era of indifference starts now. Subsection 1. Why does ignoring them make you irresistible? We chase what retreats from us and ignore what is easily within reach. Think about it. The people who seem the most desirable, the ones who hold the most power in relationships, are rarely the ones who are always available. They are the ones who remain just out of reach, who don't crumble at the slightest sign of neglect, who never beg for attention. They aren't desperate, they aren't needy, they are scarce. And in that scarcity, they become irresistible. Now let's flip the lens. If you are the one always chasing, always initiating, always waiting for a response, then what message are you sending? That you're easy to get, that you'll always be there, no matter how they treat you, that your presence is guaranteed, like a convenience rather than a choice. Let me tell you something. People do not value what they think they can have at any moment. Imagine a street performer juggling in the middle of a crowded sidewalk. People glance. They might even stop for a few moments, but then they walk on. The performer is always there, always performing, always available for their brief amusement. Now imagine, instead, that there's a private, high-end show happening in a closed-off venue. Only a select few are allowed inside. The same level of talent, maybe even less, but suddenly it's exclusive. Suddenly, people are dying to get in. That's the game you've been playing wrong. You've been juggling on the street, hoping they'll appreciate your worth, when instead you should have become the closed-off event they need an invitation to. I know what you're thinking, but if I don't show them I care, won't they forget me? And that right there? That's your fear talking. That's the old programming, the one that's kept you stuck in this cycle of proving yourself to people who should have never needed convincing in the first place. You've been told your whole life that if you love someone, you should show them, remind them, be present for them at all times. But let's be brutally honest. Has that actually worked? Has your constant presence ever made someone respect you more, or has it made them take you for granted? The truth is, people only start to realize what they had when it's no longer accessible. They need to feel your absence to understand the weight of what it means to not have you there at their convenience. And I won't lie to you, this is where it gets hard. Every fiber of your being will want to reach out. You will want to prove your worth. You will want to fix things. That's the fear of being forgotten, of losing them completely. But let me hit you with a truth that might sting. If your absence doesn't matter to them, then your presence never did. Let that sink in. If walking away does nothing to them, then staying wouldn't have changed a thing either. If they don't notice your silence, they never truly valued your voice. And that's why you need to stop being afraid of pulling away. Because if you matter, they will notice, they will feel it. And if they don't, you just saved yourself from wasting any more time on someone who never truly cared. Now I get it. You've been conditioned to believe that effort equals love. That if you just show them a little more, if you just stay a little longer, they'll finally see your worth. But that's a lie. Real value is recognized without having to beg for attention. Think of fire. The closer you get, the less you appreciate it. It's just warmth. It's just heat. But take that fire away, feel the cold, and suddenly, its presence was everything. That's the paradox of human nature. We don't truly appreciate something until we have to live without it. So now let me ask you, are you the fire that warms without effort? Or are you the one throwing yourself at people, hoping they'll notice before it's too late? Because here's the truth. Your indifference is the only thing that will make them wake up. And I know you want to fight this. I know that right now, part of you is thinking, but what if I lose them forever? Then you lose them and you win yourself. Because here's what happens when you step back. When you ignore them the way they ignored you, you force them to confront what life is like without you. No more easy attention. No more comfort in knowing you're always there waiting. And suddenly, they start wondering where you went, why you stopped responding, why you no longer seem affected. That's when the shift happens. That's when they start to chase you. Trust me, it will happen. Maybe not right away. Maybe they'll hold out, thinking you'll break first. But the longer you stay indifferent, the more their mind begins to play tricks on them. They'll wonder if you found someone else, They'll wonder if you were never as attached as they thought. They'll wonder if they made the biggest mistake of their life. This is where the test begins, because when they come back, and they will, you need to ask yourself, do you really want them back, or do you just want the validation? Because here's the real lesson. By the time they finally realize your worth, you'll have already discovered something even greater, yourself. You won't need them to see your value, because you will have already seen it for yourself. You won't need their validation, because you'll be too busy thriving without them. And that is what makes you unstoppable. So here's your challenge. The next time you feel the urge to reach out, pause. Ask yourself, is this for me, or is this for my ego? And if the answer is the latter, don't do it. Choose yourself instead. Write this in the comments. I choose myself. Say it, believe it, and most importantly, live it. And if you're ready for the next level of this journey, stick around, because next, we're diving deep into how to master true indifference. The kind that doesn't just look strong on the surface, but makes you completely untouchable. You don't want to miss this. Subsection 2. Can detachment turn desperation into desire? The moment you stop caring is the moment they start paying attention. Imagine this. You used to be the one waiting, the one staring at your phone, analyzing their last message, wondering if you said something wrong. You were the one making excuses for their silence, convincing yourself that maybe they were just busy. You lived on the edge of their attention, desperate for crumbs of validation. But now you've gone silent. No more double texting, no more watching their stories to see if they're online, no more waiting around like a backup plan they forgot to cancel. You've detached, you've stepped back, and suddenly something shifts. At first, they don't notice. They think you're playing a game, testing the waters to see if they'll chase. So they wait. They assume you'll cave, that you'll reach out first because you always have. But days pass, then a week, then 2, and something strange starts to happen. The silence they once dismissed now feels deafening. They check their phone, expecting your name to pop up. Nothing. They post something online, half hoping you'll react. Nothing. The same person who once showered them with attention has suddenly vanished from their orbit. Now it's their turn to wonder, did you lose interest? Did you find someone else? Were they wrong about how much control they had over you? This is the shift. This is where desperation turns into desire. Because here's the thing about people, they don't appreciate what's always available. They only start craving something when they realize they can't have it. Indifference breeds curiosity. Detachment breeds longing. The moment you stop chasing, you become the one being pursued. I know what you're thinking, but what if they move on? What if they never come back? And that, my friend, is the lie your desperation wants you to believe. Let's be real. If someone can so easily forget you, if your absence doesn't make them pause for even a second, then what were you fighting for in the first place? Were you fighting for love, or were you fighting for someone who only valued you when it was convenient? That's what desperation does. It tricks you into believing that if you hold on just a little longer, if you just prove yourself one more time, they'll finally see your worth. But let me break the illusion for you. Your worth should never be something someone needs to be convinced of. Let's take it deeper. Think about supply and demand. The rarest things in the world, gold, diamonds, masterpieces, are valued not just because they're beautiful, but because they're scarce. Their value comes from their exclusivity. Now apply that to yourself. If you're always available, always giving, always the one trying, you become common. You become just another option on their list, not a prize to be earned. But when you detach, when you stop bending over backwards for someone who doesn't lift a finger for you, that's when they start to feel your value. And I won't sugarcoat this. It's hard. Every part of you will want to reach out. Every instinct will scream at you to check in, to fix things, to break the silence before it becomes too real. That's your fear talking, the part of you that still believes you need their validation to feel whole. But you don't. You never did. The truth is, detachment isn't about punishing them. It's about freeing yourself from the cycle of waiting, overthinking, and proving. Freeing yourself from the idea that your worth is tied to someone else's recognition. And here's where the magic happens. When they finally reach out, when their curiosity turns into confusion and confusion turns into regret, you won't feel the way you thought you would. Because by then, you'll have moved on. You won't need their attention anymore. You won't be waiting for their validation, because while they were trying to figure out what happened to the old you, you were busy becoming someone they no longer have access to. So here's your challenge. Right now, choose yourself. Choose to pull back. Choose to let go of the fear that's been keeping you trapped. And I want you to prove it. Write this in the comments. I detach, I rise. Let that be your declaration to the world. And if you're ready to go even deeper, stay locked in, because up next, we're diving into the ultimate power move. How indifference turns you into the one they can't stop thinking about. Subsection 3. How does indifference draw them in? The more you show you don't need them, the more they start wondering if they need you. It's funny, isn't it? The moment you stop trying, the moment you step back and remove yourself from the emotional tug-of-war, suddenly they start paying attention. The same person who once took you for granted, who left your messages unanswered, who acted like your presence was just background noise, now they're staring at their phone, wondering why you've gone silent. Why? Because indifference creates a vacuum, and people cannot stand a vacuum. They are wired to fill what feels empty, to chase what pulls away. The moment you stop giving, they start feeling the absence. Let's break it down. At first, they don't notice. They assume you're just being dramatic, that you'll come crawling back like you always do. But days pass, maybe even weeks, and you're unbothered. You're not playing the game anymore. That's when something strange starts to happen. They feel the shift. The attention they used to expect from you is gone. The validation they once took for granted has vanished. The predictable cycle of pushing them away and they'll try harder is broken. And suddenly, they feel uneasy. You have created a void. And here's the thing about human nature. We hate voids. We hate uncertainty. We crave knowing we have control over something, especially when it comes to people. And when you remove yourself emotionally, when you detach and focus on yourself, you are no longer within their grasp. Now they are left wondering, why did they stop caring? Did they meet someone else? Were they never really attached to me at all? And that's when the chase begins. Because whether they realize it or not, your emotional withdrawal has turned you into a challenge, and people love a challenge. They want what they can't have. They want the one thing that isn't bending over backward for them. They want the person who can walk away without hesitation. Think about it. When something is freely given, when it's always available, we don't cherish it. But take it away, make it scarce, and suddenly it becomes valuable. Indifference is that scarcity. Now, I know what you're thinking, but I don't want to play mind games. I don't want to manipulate them into wanting me. Good, because this isn't a game. This is about genuine indifference, not pretending to care less, but actually caring less. Living your life on your own terms instead of orbiting around someone who may or may not acknowledge your worth. The biggest mistake people make when trying to use indifference is that they fake it. They pull away, but they're still waiting for a reaction. They pretend they don't care, but secretly they're checking their phone every 5 minutes. That's not real detachment. That's just another form of seeking validation. True indifference means you are genuinely unshaken by their presence or absence, And that's what draws them in. They expected a reaction. You gave them nothing. They expected you to fight. You walked away. They expected you to care. You chose yourself instead. That's when it clicks for them. That's when they realize they never really had control over you in the first place. And let me tell you, nothing is more unsettling to someone who thought they had you figured out than realizing they never did. You are no longer their puppet. You are no longer the predictable, easy option. You have stepped out of the frame, and now they have to come looking for you. And that is the power of indifference. It shifts the dynamic. It rewrites the narrative. It forces them to see what they took for granted. But here's the real kicker. By the time they finally realize it, you may not even care anymore. And that is the ultimate power move. So here's your challenge. Stop trying. Stop proving. Stop waiting. Focus on yourself. Let them wonder. Let them feel the void. Let them deal with their own confusion. You have better things to do. And if you're truly ready to embrace this new mindset, prove it. Write this in the comments. I owe them nothing. Say it. Own it. And watch how the world around you starts to change. And if you think this was powerful, stay locked in, because up next, we're diving into how mystery and unpredictability make you unforgettable. You don't want to miss it. Subsection 4. What secrets does your silence sell? The less you reveal, the more they wonder. The more they wonder, the more they chase. Silence. It's the one thing they never expected from you. They thought they had you figured out. You were predictable, always there, always responding, always giving them the satisfaction of knowing exactly where they stood with you. But now you've gone quiet. No long explanations, no desperate attempts to fix things, no subtle hints that you're still waiting in the background, just silence. And suddenly, they don't know what to do with it. At first, they assume you're just upset, that eventually you'll crack and things will go back to normal. But as the days pass, as your silence stretches into something unfamiliar, a seed of doubt starts to grow in their mind. What's going on? Why haven't you reached out? Who have you been talking to instead? Wait, have you moved on? You see, silence isn't just the absence of words. It's a weapon, a signal, a message that says, I no longer need to explain myself. Figure it out. And that right there, that's what drives people insane. Because human nature hates the unknown. We crave closure, answers, certainty. When someone stops talking, we start filling in the blanks ourselves. And here's where it gets interesting. People always assume the worst when left in the dark. Your silence is whispering things to them that you never even had to say. Maybe they thought you were weak, that you'd always be there, no matter how they treated you. But now, that silence is telling them otherwise. It's telling them they were wrong. It's telling them you're slipping away. And nothing is more attractive than something that feels just out of reach. Look at how people chase the unknown. They binge-watch mystery shows trying to solve the puzzle. They obsess over what they can't figure out. They crave answers that aren't immediately given. That's exactly what your silence does to them. Because before, you were an open book, flipping pages for them, making sure they understood every chapter. Now you're a locked diary with missing pages, and they can't stand it. I know what you're thinking, but if I don't say anything, won't they just forget about me? No, they forget the noise, not the silence. Think about it. How many times have you replayed the things someone didn't say, the message they never sent, the response they never gave? It lingers in the mind far longer than words ever could. That's the power you hold right now. But here's the catch. You have to commit. You can't half-ass this. You can't go silent for a few days, then cave in because you want reassurance. The moment you break, the moment you reach out first, you lose every ounce of mystery you created, and then you're back where you started. This is why silence is so hard for most people. It requires discipline. It forces you to sit in discomfort, to fight the urge to control the situation, to trust that your absence speaks louder than your words ever could. But the reward? It's worth it. Because when they finally break, when they finally come back, they won't just be coming back to the person they once ignored. They'll be coming back to a new version of you, one they can no longer predict, no longer control, one that they now have to prove themselves to. And that's when the power shifts. So here's your challenge. Embrace the silence. Let it do the talking for you. Let it make them wonder, overthink, and question everything. And most importantly, don't break. If you're ready to own this power, prove it. Write this in the comments. My silence speaks louder than words. Let it be your declaration. Show them, show yourself, show the world, and stick around because next, we're diving into why self-interest is the most magnetic energy you can have. You don't want to miss this. Subsection 5. When does absence become presence? They only start missing you when they realize they're no longer in your world. You ever notice how the loudest thing in a room is sometimes the silence? How an empty chair at a dinner table can feel heavier than the people sitting around it? That's because absence isn't just nothing. It's a presence of its own. It's a space, a void, a question left unanswered. And when it comes to relationships, your absence can be a thunderclap, but only if you have the patience to let it be heard. See, most people think that the only way to make someone notice them is to keep showing up, to keep reminding them, to keep staying in their line of sight. They bombard with texts. They accidentally show up where they might be. They keep posting, hoping to trigger some reaction. But that's desperation, trying to force your presence where it's not being valued. But what if, instead of trying to prove your worth through constant presence, you let your absence do the talking? Imagine this. You used to be there, always available, always responding, always showing up. They got used to it. You became background noise, like a song they've heard 1,000 times, one they hum along to without even realizing it. Then one day, silence. No more reaching out, no more responding right away, no more effortless availability, just absence. At first, they don't notice. They assume it's nothing. Maybe you're busy, maybe you're just giving them space. But then it lingers. Days pass, maybe weeks. And now, something strange starts to happen. Your absence becomes a presence, because now there's a gap, and gaps demand to be filled. The human brain hates unanswered questions. It hates voids. And when you disappear from someone's life, they don't just shrug and move on. They wonder, where did they go? Why aren't they reaching out? Did they find someone else? You become a puzzle they didn't realize they were trying to solve. And the irony, the longer you stay silent, the louder your presence becomes in their mind. This is the power of strategic absence. Absence is what makes a reunion meaningful. It's what makes an old song suddenly nostalgic. It's why people long for childhood summers, for old friends, for the moments they never truly appreciated until they were gone. And when it comes to relationships, it's why the second you remove yourself from someone's world, you force them to see what life is like without you. Now I know what you're thinking, but what if they don't notice? What if my absence doesn't make a difference? Then congratulations, you just got your answer. Because here's the truth. If someone can easily erase you from their world without a second thought, then your presence never meant as much as you hoped it did. And that's exactly why you need to walk away, not to teach them a lesson, not to play a game, but to save yourself from investing in someone who was never truly invested in you. I won't lie to you, this won't be easy. Your mind will try to trick you into breaking the silence. You'll tell yourself that reaching out just once won't hurt, that if you just remind them of what you shared, maybe they'll finally see your worth. Don't. Because every time you do that, you weaken the effect of your absence. Every time you chase, You prove that they don't need to miss you because you're still there, waiting. But when you hold your ground, when you let your absence stretch, when you truly detach and stop trying to be noticed, that's when your presence becomes undeniable. Suddenly, when you do show up, it's different. It's rare. It's valuable. They start to anticipate it, to appreciate it, because it's no longer guaranteed. They see you through new eyes. Think of it like a limited edition product. When something is always in stock, always on sale, people take their time. They assume it will always be there. But the moment they hear limited time only, or only a few left, suddenly they want it more than anything. And that's the mindset shift you need to embrace. You are not an unlimited resource. Your presence is not something that should be given freely to those who don't value it. You don't need to be everywhere to be remembered. You just need to be missed. And the only way to be missed is to have the courage to disappear. So here's your challenge. Stop giving them unlimited access to you. Step back. Let them feel the silence. Let your absence echo. And I want you to prove that you get this. Write this in the comments. My absence is my power. Let that be your declaration. Let it be a reminder that your value doesn't come from constantly being available, but from knowing when to walk away. And if you're ready for the next step, stay locked in, because next, we're diving into why becoming a mystery makes you unforgettable. You do not want to miss this. Subsection 6. Why does self-interest seduce? The moment you start focusing on yourself is the moment they start focusing on you. Look around. Look at the world, the people you admire, the ones who command attention without saying a word. Do you know what they all have in common? They don't beg for it. They don't sit around waiting for someone to validate their worth. They are too busy building, creating, evolving. They don't chase, they attract. Now let's talk about you. For far too long you've been stuck in the shadows of someone else's story. You've made them the protagonist, the center of your thoughts, the reason behind your sleepless nights. Every move you made, every decision was subconsciously tied to them. What they'd think, how they'd react, whether they'd notice. You became a supporting character in your own life. And that ends now. Because here's the truth they never told you. Nothing is more attractive than someone who is completely unapologetically focused on their own growth. Nothing pulls people in like someone who has detached from the need for approval and is too busy upgrading their own life to worry about who's watching. You've seen it happen. You've seen how the moment someone stops caring, suddenly the world wants a piece of them. The ex who didn't care before suddenly checks their stories. The one who ignored them now starts reminiscing about the good times. The world notices those who aren't looking for attention. Why? Because self-interest is magnetic. Think about a king or a queen. They don't beg for love. They don't chase after people who walk away. They sit on their throne, focused on their empire, and because of that, others gravitate toward them, not out of obligation, not out of pity, but out of sheer, undeniable admiration. And here's the hard part. The shift from chasing to building won't be easy at first. Your mind will resist. It will beg you to check their profile, to send that text, to just see how they're doing. It will try to pull you back into their orbit, making you believe that your life revolves around whether or not they acknowledge you. But that's a lie. Let me ask you something. If they disappeared off the face of the earth today, what would be left of you? What's in your life that's purely yours, built by you, driven by you, not tied to anyone else? If the answer is nothing, then that's exactly why you're suffering. Because when you make someone else your purpose, you lose yourself the moment they leave. But when you become the main character, when you shift your focus from them to you, everything changes. Your energy stops leaking into the void of people who don't reciprocate it. Your time becomes sacred, spent only on things that elevate you. You wake up thinking about your own goals, your own dreams, your own future, not whether or not someone texted you back. And here's the ironic twist. This is when they start paying attention. When you start leveling up, hitting the gym, working on your craft, expanding your mind, upgrading your lifestyle, people take notice, even the ones who swore they never would. Because now you've become something rare. You've become someone they can't control, someone they can't predict, someone who doesn't need them. And nothing drives people crazier than realizing they have no power over you anymore. You don't win by proving yourself. You win by moving on without them. Because here's the secret they never told you. People don't value what's given freely. They value what they have to earn. So let them wonder. Let them feel the shift. Let them see you rise while they remain stuck in the same patterns, the same cycles, the same emptiness they tried to leave you in. Let them feel the loss. Not because you played games, but because you truly stopped needing them. And when they finally come back, and they will, when they start lingering in your space, throwing breadcrumbs just to see if you'll bite, you'll realize something shocking. You don't even want them anymore, because by then you'll have stepped into something greater. By then you'll have discovered your own power. So here's your challenge. Start today, right now. Pick something: your health, your mindset, your finances, your passion, and go all in. Stop making them the reason you wake up in the morning. Become the reason yourself. And I want you to commit to it right here. Write this in the comments. I am the main character of my story. Say it out loud. Say it to yourself every single morning. Let it become your truth. And if you're ready to go even deeper, stay locked in, because next we're diving into the one thing that will make you completely untouchable. Becoming the one they can't reach. You don't want to miss this. Subsection 7. What power lies in being unreachable? The less accessible you are, the more they crave your presence. Let's get one thing straight. People respect what they can't easily have. They chase what they can't control. They crave what feels just out of reach. And yet many of you have spent your time handing over unlimited access to people who don't even deserve a conversation with you. Why? Because you were scared. Scared that if you pulled back, they'd forget about you. Scared that if you stopped trying, they'd move on. Scared that if you didn't remind them you existed, you'd disappear from their world entirely. But let's be brutally honest here. If someone forgets you the second you stop making an effort, then you were never valued to begin with. You were just convenient. And there is nothing more dangerous to your self-respect than being someone's convenience. So let's flip the script. Imagine walking into an exclusive club. The line is long, the doors are guarded, and only a select few get in. The mystery, the exclusivity, the sheer difficulty of gaining access. That's what makes it valuable. That's what makes people desperate to be part of it. Now imagine another club, one with its doors wide open, no entry requirements, letting anyone walk in and out as they please. Do you think anyone values that experience the same way? Of course not. It's just another place they can come and go from whenever they feel like it. Now ask yourself, are you the exclusive club, or are you the open-door convenience store? Because right now, some of you are giving people a VIP pass to your time, your energy, your emotions, when they haven't even earned the right to stand in line. You let them walk in, take what they want, and walk right back out. And then you sit there wondering why they don't respect you. The reason? You have no boundaries. When you're always available, always responding, always showing up, even when they barely put in effort, you're telling them that your time and energy cost nothing. You're showing them that no matter how they treat you, they can always come back and pick up where they left off. This is where the power of being unreachable comes in. When you stop making yourself so accessible, people start to value every moment they do get with you. Suddenly they realize they don't have unrestricted access to your life. They can't just text you at 2 a.m. and expect an instant reply. They can't treat you like an option and still assume you'll be there when they feel like it. And that's when the shift happens. At first they might get frustrated. They're used to getting you whenever they want. They're used to you replying instantly, dropping everything, making them feel important, even when they barely make an effort. But now, you're a closed door. They send a message and it sits unread for hours. They try to call and you let it ring. They start wondering, where are they? Why aren't they responding? What changed? And suddenly, you're on their mind more than you ever were before. That's the thing about human nature. We crave what we don't fully understand. We chase what feels uncertain. And nothing creates more curiosity, more desire, than someone who is hard to reach. Now I know what you're thinking, but won't they just move on to someone else? Maybe, but let me ask you this. Do you really want someone in your life who only values you when you're easy to access? Real connection isn't built on constant availability, it's built on mutual respect, and respect is something you command when you establish boundaries. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you're playing games, it means you refuse to be used. It means you're no longer on standby for someone who only sees your worth when they're bored or lonely. It means you decide who gets access to you, when, and how much. And let me be clear, this isn't just about relationships. This is about life, your time, your energy, your presence. These are valuable. Treat them that way, and the world will too. Keep giving yourself away for free, and you'll always be taken for granted. So here's your challenge. Make yourself rare. Start saying no. Start being unavailable. Start living your life on your own terms instead of waiting around for someone to notice you. And I want you to prove it. Write this in the comments. I protect my energy. Let it be your declaration. And if you're ready to see just how powerful this shift can be, stay locked in, because next, we're breaking down the psychology of how your silence becomes the loudest message they'll ever hear. Subsection 8. How do you reclaim your narrative with indifference? The best way to make them miss you is to make them realize they never truly had you. Imagine this. You've been silent. You've been distant. You've pulled back. And in doing so, you've flipped the entire script. The person who once ignored you, who once took you for granted, is now the one wondering where you went. They check their phone more often, scroll through your profile, hoping to find a clue. Maybe they even throw out a random text. Hey, how have you been? Just to see if you're still within reach. And the old you, the version of you that once craved their attention, would have jumped at the opportunity, excited, relieved, ready to give them access again. But you are not that version anymore. You don't rush to respond. You don't drop everything just because they suddenly remembered you exist. You return on your terms, or not at all. Because here's the truth. Indifference isn't just about walking away. It's about returning as someone they no longer have power over. The moment you step back into the frame, you have a choice. Do you return as the desperate, hopeful person they once overlooked? Or do you step back in as someone they never expected? And here's the secret. You don't actually need to do anything to make them respect you. It's your absence that already did the work. Let me ask you, what's more powerful? The person who rushes back the first sign of attention, or the one who pauses, evaluates, and then decides if it's even worth engaging at all? That's your power now. When you return, you don't do it with eagerness. You don't do it seeking validation. You do it with a sense of nonchalance that makes them question everything. Maybe they reach out with a casual, "Hey, it's been a while," and instead of hitting them with paragraphs, Instead of over-explaining your silence or making it seem like you were waiting for this moment, you respond with nothing more than a cool, effortless, "Yeah, it has." No emotion, no desperation, no longing, just an acknowledgement that time has passed, and you don't need to fill in the gaps for them. Let them wonder where you've been, let them wonder what changed, because the mystery of your indifference is more powerful than any explanation you could ever give. They might test the waters, trying to see if you're still the person they once dismissed. Maybe they throw in a, "We should catch up," and here's where you make your next move. You don't rush to agree. You don't act like this is some grand invitation that you've been waiting for. Instead, you act like their presence in your life is just another option, not a priority. "Maybe I've been pretty busy lately." That one sentence changes everything, because suddenly they're not in control. You are. They feel it. That shift in power, that loss of certainty, that realization that they don't have access to you the way they once did, and now they have to work for it. And let me tell you something, if someone isn't willing to work for your time, they don't deserve it. Indifference isn't about playing games, it's about owning your worth so deeply that you no longer settle for half-hearted efforts. It's about walking back into the room with an entirely different energy, one that commands respect, not pity, one that says, "I don't need you, you need me." Because here's the final challenge. What happens when they finally see your worth, but you've already moved on? What happens when they realize the person they ignored is now the person they can't stop thinking about? That's the moment of true power, not just making them miss you, but realizing that you no longer miss them. So here's what I want you to do. If you're done chasing, if you're done proving, if you're done waiting, write this in the comments. I hold the power now. Show them, show yourself, show the world. And that, my friends, is how you reclaim your power. No chasing, no proving, just pure, unshakable indifference. If this resonated with you, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs it. Keep rising, keep evolving, and remember, your silence speaks louder than their neglect. Stay strong.